Hey guys, my name is Brandon. I'm going to be doing a 1,000-hour service on this PC228 Komatsu. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of filters, engine oil, and we'll be topping up all the other fluids and checking to make sure everything's greased up and basically just ready to run. We're also going to do the final drive oils.
Welcome to Service Call, a mechanic's guide to service, troubleshooting, and repair.
All right, just PPE, gonna have steel toe boots, coveralls. I like to wear gloves just to kind of keep the stuff off my hands. And also, you know, sometimes there's little sharp edges. Nitrile gloves help. And I'm also gonna have safety glasses on just to get, you know, make sure I don't get anything in my eyes. All right, so yeah, I just ran this machine, parked it here. Engine oil is a little warm. I'm gonna take a panel off the bottom and then drain the engine oil out. So I'm gonna take a panel off here. Put this out of the way. Oftentimes I put bolts right there just to make sure they don't get lost. Okay, so good news, there's an actual drain valve. So instead of using this bucket, we're gonna do a funnel and a bucket I can seal up. Engine oil fill cap. Just get all the dust off it so you don't put a bunch of dust into the engine. Whoop. There we go. Around 25 liters in this engine. So this is a 20-liter pail. So if I'm lucky, we won't overflow. But actually, I don't think luck will have anything to do with it. I have to keep an eye on it. Okay, so I just turned it off. I'm gonna change buckets because I got this probably 3/4 of the way full and I don't want to overflow. So I'm gonna put the rest into another bucket. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's almost full. It won't overflow as the oil continues to drain. So there's a few filters back here by the pump. We're gonna change the engine oil filter. And then there's two fuel filters here, a primary and secondary with a water drain. So we'll reuse the water drain bowl with this filter. All these are OEM parts. They come with new O-rings. Sometimes you need a filter wrench just to get things moving. Oftentimes guys make it so tight that if you're not careful, you'll wrap your knuckles. Okay, I'm just gonna put some oil in this filter before. And then if you do this, you can kind of wet that surface or wet that O-ring. And also give this a little clean too. They even say on the filter, once you get it flush, go another 3/4 of a turn. You don't need to crank on it. I don't ever put a wrench on a filter when I'm tightening it up again. But you don't want it coming loose, but you also don't want to go so tight that you can't ever get it off again. When you put oil on the O-ring, it makes it a little easier to take off next time. Okay, so that's done. I'm gonna do the fuel filter. So there's a little drain hose on the bottom here. I'm just gonna reach in and shut off this fuel valve on the bottom of the tank. I'm kind of going by feel. Just a 90-degree valve. Yeah, okay, I got it turned off so that when I take that fuel filter off, I'm not having fuel run continuously down. While that's kind of draining, I just kind of crack this bowl loose a little bit, and I'm gonna crack the filter loose after because it's a little tighter than I can get by hand. I'm gonna have to put a wrench on it. So this little hose, I'm gonna clean it. This is basically just a hose to direct fuel and or water, because sometimes that bowl will fill up with water, moisture. So the purpose of that is so you can drain that out. So we're gonna reuse this bowl, and there's a sensor actually in the bottom that I'm gonna unplug here, if I can. I'm gonna actually just unplug it here and just take it off with the bowl. So now I'm gonna take the filter off, and I got a wrench. This is a nice wrench. It's got little grips on it for gripping a filter. I know this might sound silly, but you saw me pulling. A lot of times guys will, well, I've done it before where you're trying to push on the filter, but if it slips, then the hand you're pushing with ends up hitting an edge or something like that, and then you end up having ripped knuckles. Okay, So before I put a new filter on there, I'm going to take the one off on the back as well. And I'm also just wiping off the bottom of this manifold here where the filter goes, getting any grease off there. I'm probably actually going to use a little bit more of a cleaner in a second as well. So same thing, we're going to pull this filter off here. This is the second fuel filter, the high pressure one. See, this one's a lot tighter. So I'm just trying to position this wrench in a way that I don't smash anything. So you got to watch, sometimes the O-rings will stick to the top, and if you try to put a new filter on with the O-ring stuck to the top, you will not get a seal. And there's also another little O-ring for the inside right here that comes off, and a new one comes with the new filter. These are little things you want to look for when you're changing filters. If you ever get a box or a filter from a manufacturer, make sure that you don't lose the O-rings that are attached to it. See this brand new one here, there's a new O-ring right there, and a new O-ring right there. And this little red cap needs to come out before we put it in as well. So opening the filter up, I'm going to keep that O-ring and set it aside just to make sure I don't lose it. Garbage in pocket. So this just a little dust cap there, protector. You can use a little bit of diesel fuel that's coming out of the manifold just to kind of wet that O-ring a bit. And also then this one here goes up and into this position, just around this spigot. So you slide it up and make sure it's seated. We're going to get this thing filled up, primed with fuel, but in order to do that, I'm going to turn the valve back on the bottom of the fuel tank and basically let the stream fill this up, shut it back off, and then tighten it on there. So I just kind of got to be a little bit quick here. Turning it on. Now I've got a stream of diesel coming. If you don't prime your fuel filters when you put them on, oftentimes you can have a really hard time getting your engine running again. You're going to want to time lapse that puppy.
No, we're slowing it down.
You're going to slow it down? 4 hours later.
Yeah.
SpongeBob.
Yeah, you know it.
Turn that back off. If I can find it. There we go. I don't know if you want a shot of that. That's pretty much full now. So now I'm going to basically take that one. A little bit of brake clean just to get a clean surface. So I just tightened that filter on. We're going to put a date and the hour meter reading. And I'm going to write it right on the filter because sometimes if you diagnose something, if you're trying to diagnose something, it's nice to know when the filters were changed last. This is the bowl. We're going to get it ready to go on before I put the other filter on. There's an O-ring in here that we're going to take out. We got a new O-ring with the new filter. So I'm just going to clean the outside of the bowl. I'm going to give it a little spray here. I think it's important definitely to clean the bowl because you can get sometimes bacteria in there. It's not like you're going to get a whole enough bacteria in just the bowl that you're going to really screw up your engine. But if you allow bacteria to sit there, actually you can get like what's called diesel bug. You can get a bacteria that grows in your fuel system and actually screws up your engine running properly. So if you're putting a new filter on there, you may as well do a good job of cleaning out the bowl. I think that's clean enough. That's good. Okay, so now we're going to do the new filter. This is the other new filter that we have. So that's the new O-ring for the bowl, and it came with the filter. Another cap, a little bit of diesel to lubricate that O-ring as well. I'm going to run this as well for a second, just to give myself a little bit of diesel just to get things loosened up here. So I'm going to take that guy. I'm going to turn this back off now that I got a bit going. This guy here. Okay, so now I'm gonna run this again just to get some more diesel into there. Okay. Okay, so that's tight. Don't forget to plug this sensor back in. It's good to give everything a little bit of a wash down too, because when you run it again, if it's clean before you run it, then you'll be able to see if there's any leaks. Okay, this is a little hand priming pump and everything's all tight and sealed up with regards to the fuel system. I'm just gonna give it a little couple pumps just to make sure that that I got lots of pressure in the fuel system, so that when we go to fire it up, like, see, I can barely push it now. That's good. So basically just reconnect it. You don't have to crank it super tight, just by hand. Okay, so I'm just gonna close up the engine oil drain. While we were doing those other filters, the fuel filter and the engine oil filter, I just left this draining into a bucket. Oil pan is definitely completely drained now. So I'm gonna close that up and we can start refilling the engine oil. I'll come back to putting that panel on later. Engine oil fill spout, we're gonna put brand new engine oil in this thing. And one thing that's good to do too is wipe off the top of the bucket so you don't get dust or debris going down into the funnel with your new engine oil. So this engine, according to the manual, says it's going to take 26 point something liters. This is a 20-liter pail, so we'll do all of this and a bit more, but as soon as I'm done putting this amount in, I'm going to check the dipstick and just see what it looks like for a level. That was for you. Let gravity do some of the work here. We're just below the full, or the top of the level. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a bit more in, and then what we'll do is we'll run it, let everything run for a second, and then we'll do a recheck after. While we're here, I'm gonna just take a quick check of the coolant. If these things are hot, just be really careful. Make sure you should never open that wide open when it's fully hot. Okay, this is right full, so there's lots of coolant in the rad. I'm going to double check the expansion tank after as well, make sure it's right full of coolant. See the expansion tank for the cooling system, for the coolant or overflow tank, and there's a line that says full. It's like a molded line right into the tank, and it's literally just a tiny bit low, but we'll top it up. So we just finished doing engine oil filter, fuel filters, both of them. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just fire it up because we've refilled the engine oil, and let it run for a second, let the fuel circulate, let the engine oil circulate. Then we're gonna do a recheck of the engine oil level, make sure it's at the perfect spot. And if we have to, we'll top it up. Gonna just quickly go check for leaks. Okay, that's good, no leaks. Sometimes you can get a false reading on a dipstick because if there's oil in the tube, but we're right at the perfect level. Basically, when you look at the back, you can see that it stopped right there. And you spin it over, you can see it's right at the right spot. So that's good for in there. Drain plug here for the swing transmission. There's not going to be a lot of oil here, but we're just going to replace it. Now I'm going to go up and pull that dipstick so it allows it to vent out. I'm going to pull this other cover off and do the pump drive, or the dampener case. I don't think this has ever been changed on this machine. Okay, so this is the pump to engine damper case. Basically the pump drive oil case, another word for it. So this right here, there's 3 plugs. There's a level plug, which is the one that's on the side attached to the actual case. Then there's a drain plug, which is right on the bottom. And then in addition to that, there's a fill plug up here because it's pretty hard to get to the actual side of that case. So when I'm filling that oil, I'm going to use this to fill it, but I'm going to leave that plug out. And when oil starts to run out of that level plug, that's when I know it's at the right spot. Okay, so we've drained the oil. I'm going to put the drain plug back in, and then we're going to start filling it up. And I'm just going to tighten it back up. I'm also going to put the plug back in for the swing transmission because it's pretty well done draining now. It's just a tiny little bit of leftover oil in the line. So I'm just going to crack that loose. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit because it's so such a small hole here for it to go down. And this is the level check plug for the pump drive case. I'm putting that back in as well. Kind of in a bit of an awkward spot. Okay, we're just going to refill the swing transmission gearbox because we drained it. And now we're refilling it. So that's perfect. Just gonna put this cover back on below the engine. Okay, that's good. Okay, we're gonna do a few more filters. We gotta do the hydraulic oil filter and the breather. And we also have to do the air filter. So we got a few places to go on the machine, but we are changing final drive oil. And so what we're gonna do is position those final drives so we can drain the oil first. While it's draining, then, you know, because it's thicker oil, it's gonna take a little while to drain. We'll go and do the other stuff. So we're gonna fire it up, position these, and then we'll come back to doing this in a minute. Just going to get these drain plugs cracked. Sometimes you can give them a little bang with a hammer just to make it so when you go to loosen them, they actually come looser a little bit easier. 1/2-inch drive. Good, nice, long handled ratchet's a good thing to have. So I got that one cracked. I'm going to crack the other one here too. See, when I hit it, it actually loosened that one already. Okay, so we'll let that sit. We'll let that sit and drain for a while. The reason I take out all 3 plugs is A, to ventilate it so it can drain easier, but B, when you go fill it, you fill through one hole and you let the oil run out the other side, and that's basically to let you know that it's full. Like that's when it's at that horizontal level, that's the right level, or that's the right amount of oil in the final drive. Okay. While the final drive oil is draining, we're going to change this air filter out. Just give everything a bit of a wipe down. That filter comes off. Been waiting for this. This is going to become my garbage box. Okay, so we got our 2 new filters here, inner filter, outer filter. We're going to install this. Make sure it's nice and flush. And then same thing with the outer filter. I'm going to actually put the hours on this one as well as the outer one. Put the hours on both of them. Anybody doing any servicing will definitely appreciate having hours written on the filters. Good. Air filter done. So we can close this door for now. Okay, so this is the hydraulic filter, and there's an O-ring for the cover, and then there's a breather filter. So we're going to change both of these for the hydraulic tank. So I just vented any pressure in the tank there. And this is called a bypass valve right here. Okay. Just kind of clean this area here. This is the old O-ring, which we're going to change. Sometimes people will reuse them, but if you got a new O-ring, like, it's always best to change the O-ring here, because they get a little flat and they can leak. If you got leaks up here, it's not fun. And there's a little spigot or a little round ring down on the bottom. You want to make sure that this is seated on that. Then you can use a little bit of the existing hydraulic oil to lubricate this flange here. This is the new O-ring. So if you want to lubricate it, you can just kind of take it, wrap it up, dip it down there, just get it all kind of full of oil. And that's like any O-ring that you're changing, you want to make sure it's lubricated before you put it back on, or before you put the cover back on. This strainer, give it a little clean. So that looks good. So that sits back down in there. Then the bypass valve sits on top of it. Then the spring sits on top of that. Put that back on. As I have been, I'm going to write on here the date. So here's the breather. Just a hydraulic tank breather. This little guy unscrews. And this guy just kind of comes off. Clean that up a little bit. Here's the old one and the new one. I'm gonna stick that guy on there. Just kind of make sure it's seated. And this guy here, we'll just give it a little clean. Just so it's kind of snug. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. And there's this little guy. It just basically locks that on there. I'm gonna leave this loose because we're gonna come back and double check the hydraulic oil level after. So we'll probably end up topping up, putting a little bit more hydraulic oil in it in a minute. Okay, so we're gonna put this cover back on. Okay. Okay. There we go. Final check there. Okay, that's good. Okay. So I'm there. Okay. Final drive oils are done. Okay, so just carrying on with the service, we're gonna do a couple of cabin air filters. One is right here under the seat, and that's pretty nasty. So I don't know if you can see how much garbage is in that. There's only one way this will go in. It's marked. So with the handle, it's got to be facing up. So that's basically the only way it can go in is this way. Just slip that in and it clicks. You can close that little door there. And then the other filter is right behind the cab here. Same idea, it's pretty dirty. So we're gonna change it as well. Okay, this guy goes in. And basically just the door closing is what holds this into place. That one's done. All right, so I'm just gonna do a grease job and make sure that all the fittings have grease. Really important. If you don't grease, you get all your pins and bushings will start to wear metal on metal. And when you wear metal on metal, everything just starts to wear out. It's really bad for the machine and costs a lot of money to fix because you got to get into line boring and changing bushings. This machine actually, looking at this one spot, this hinge point hasn't been greased in a while. That's good there. So I got a bunch more points. And I found that there's one broken grease nipple here. And so I'm going to change it. I actually brought a few grease nipples. I'm going to replace that one. All you need typically is a 7/16 socket and the right grease nipples. And what the thread pitch is you're usually 1/8 inch NPT. So when you, oh, that's no good. So that hasn't had grease in a while, so it's probably jammed up a little.
You want to use this?
Hey? Oh, sure. Yeah, that one it hadn't been greased in quite a while, but because it was broken. So I could see that some grease was working its way out. Yeah, that's it on that. Gonna do a little more greasing just to give us access to all the different stuff, and then this is also, I checked the manual and this is the position they want for checking the hydraulic oil, so we're gonna check the hydraulic oil after. There's a sight glass right here, and I'm just gonna check and make sure it's right there. So it's a tiny bit low, so I'm gonna add a little bit of hydraulic oil to this machine. And you just do that through here. So I'm gonna take this funnel down and this oil down, and we'll bring up the hydraulic oil and do that. Just gonna give it a check here. It's good, it's full. I'm gonna top up the washer fluid here. This is just like winter grade. I guess this machine's going to Alberta, so it's not gonna be a bad thing. All right. Now I'm gonna just fire the machine up, do a couple little function checks, check the horns, the lights, that kind of stuff, and just make sure everything's good to go. Okay, that works. Okay guys, we're done with the 1,000-hour service on this PC228. We changed the engine oil and filter, the fuel filters. We changed both final drive oils. We changed the pump drive oil. We also changed the swing drive oil. We greased the machine, gave it a general look over, found that there was like a light bulb out, one light bulb, so we may change that light bulb at a later date because I don't have one with me. But other than that, the machine seemed to be pretty good. We checked the track tension and it looked good as well. So essentially everything that was asked for by the manufacturer for 1,000-hour service was done today, and we're done. Once again, guys, my name is Brandon. Thanks for watching. To support this channel, like, comment, and subscribe.